Have you ever really looked at a map of India and just assumed it's always looked like that? Here's the thing, the map we see today was never a given. Nope, it's actually the result of decades of fierce debate, powerful protests, and a really unique constitutional power that lets India literally redraw its own internal borders. Okay, let's get into this incredible story.
So, here's the central question we're going to tackle. When India gained independence in 1947, it wasn't one neat, tidy country. It was this massive, complicated patchwork of British provinces and hundreds upon hundreds of princely states. So the big question was, how on earth do you take all of that and forge a single modern nation? And this really shows you just how huge that challenge was. I mean, imagine trying to solve a jigsaw puzzle with over 500 pieces, where every piece is its own kingdom with its own ruler. Now, thankfully, 549 of those states did choose to join India, but integrating them, that was a whole other story. The old lines had to be erased, and new ones had to be drawn from scratch.
All right, so to really get how we got from that puzzle to the map we know today, we've got to go right back to the beginning, to what the nation looked like right after independence.
Just let that number sink in for a second. 552. That's how many princely states, big and tiny, were scattered across India's geography, each with its own administration, its own history. The job of bringing them all together into one country was, and I'm putting it mildly here, absolutely staggering.
You see, the British didn't just hand over a clean slate. The Indian Independence Act of 1947 basically left it up to the rulers of these 552 states. They had three choices: join India, join the new nation of Pakistan, or, and this was the really tricky one, try to stay independent. This set the stage for some incredibly high-stakes negotiations and political maneuvering.
Now, to solve a puzzle this massive and this complicated, India's founders knew they needed some seriously powerful tools. And you know where they put them? They built them right into the nation's blueprint, the Constitution itself.
And the words they used, they are so important. Article 1 calls India a union of states, not a federation of states. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the architect of the Constitution, was very clear about this. He said this specific wording meant two critical things. First, the union wasn't some voluntary pact between states that they could just walk away from. And second, because of that, no state had any right to secede. The union was built to last forever.
So how can the map actually change? Well, the Constitution gives Parliament two key powers. You've got Article 2, which lets India bring in new territories, places that weren't part of the country before. But the real game changer, the one that reshaped India from the inside, is Article 3. This gives Parliament the power to create new states by changing the borders of states that already exist. And when we say Parliament has power under Article 3, we mean some serious power. It can make a state bigger or smaller. It can completely change its borders. It can even change a state's name. It can carve a brand new state out of an old one, or it can merge two states together. The bottom line is this: the central parliament has the final say on what India's internal map looks like.
Okay, so the power's there, the tools are in the Constitution. But now, a huge debate kicks off. What should be the principle for drawing these new state lines? Should they be organized for simple administrative convenience, or should they reflect the deep linguistic identities of the people?
At first, the official thinking was pretty one-sided. Back in 1948, you had the Dar Commission and then the JVP Committee, which had giants like Nehru and Patel on it, and both of them said, nope, let's stick to administrative ease. They were worried that states based on language could stir up regionalism and weaken the new nation. But out on the streets, a different story was unfolding. The popular demand, the roar from the people for states based on their own language, was just getting louder and louder.
And this clash, this tension between what the government wanted and what the people were demanding, it was all about to come to a head in a really tragic and dramatic way. One man's protest was about to force the government's hand and change the map of India forever. A Gandhian freedom fighter, a man named Putti Sriramulu, began a fast unto death. His demand was simple but powerful: create a separate state for the Telugu-speaking people to be carved out of the massive Madras state. On the 56th day of his fast, he passed away, and the region exploded. There were massive protests, riots, and widespread unrest. The government had no choice. It was compelled to act. And so, in October 1953, Andhra Pradesh was born, the very first state in India created on the basis of language.
56 days. That number, it's not just a number.
It represents an immense sacrifice that became the turning point for the entire country. The death of Poti Sri Ramalu was the moment everyone realized that this demand for linguistic states wasn't just some political argument. It was a deeply emotional and cultural movement that could not be ignored any longer.
That one event, that one sacrifice, it was like a dam breaking. The creation of Andhra Pradesh opened the floodgates, and it led to a complete nationwide rethinking of India's internal borders.
Okay, so the government realized, wow, we can't just do this piecemeal. We need a plan for the whole country. So, in December 1953, they set up the States Reorganization Commission, headed by a man named Fazl Ali. Its job? To look at the entire country and come up with a logical, balanced plan for redrawing the map.
And the commission came up with this really smart, balanced approach. They laid out 4 key principles. First, and most important, whatever you do, you have to preserve the unity and security of India. But second, they finally accepted it. Linguistic and cultural homogeneity was a valid basis for a state. Then, you had to make sure the state was financially and administratively viable. And finally, you had to think about the welfare of the people. It was a really holistic way of looking at the problem.
So, based on the Commission's report, Parliament passed the historic States Reorganization Act of 1956. And then, on November 1st of that year, boom! The old, messy system of states was gone. In its place was a brand new map of India with 14 states and 6 union territories, most of them drawn along linguistic lines.
This whole incredible process gave us a phrase that just perfectly sums up the unique nature of the Indian system.
And this right here is the key takeaway. India is an indestructible union. It can't be broken up. But it's made up of destructible states. Their borders, their names, even their very existence can be changed by Parliament without their consent. Now compare that to a country like the USA. It's also an indestructible union, but of indestructible states. The US federal government absolutely cannot change a state's borders unless that state agrees. It's a fundamental difference.
So we end on this thought. The map of India has never been frozen in time. It's changed, it's evolved, and the power to change it still exists today. This unique flexibility, this ability to reshape itself to meet the aspirations of its people, is right at the heart of India's identity. It tells us that the Indian Union was designed from the very beginning not to be rigid and brittle, but to be a dynamic, living, and always evolving nation.